No, she just got back from vacation and didn't have time to prepare, so she asked if she could be on the agenda on Wednesday. And I did post just in case it was okay with you guys.
Okay. So, was Debbie gonna come down, or was
Debbie
Michelle
is-
coming down?
No, Michelle is, she asked me about that today, and I said, well, if you and Debbie have talked about this and Debbie prepared you to give the presentation, I don't see any problem with that, but bottom line is, she's not the finance officer.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have, another assistant come in. Michelle's very good at the science of budgeting, but I think we'd be throwing her into the deep end of the pool.
So I guess Val, Clerk District Court personnel needs job description decision?
Alrighty. You come around with me.
So Val, just to kind of let you know, I think I put this in an email so that you'd be, informed. Instead of doing exactly what we're doing right now with Janae's position, we're looking at tweaking it a little bit. And what we talked about was we have a dire need for an assistant for finance. So we were talking about a 20-hour, a part-time for finance, and then probably the same amount of hours as now for district court, and then a few hours per week for the commission, because we have a 2-foot stack of paperwork that needs to be filed. So kind of the same thing, only instead of your replacement working for the sanitarian, they'd be working for finance for the same amount of time.
So may I address that? Okay. So when Janaea was leaving, getting ready to leave, I had requested for a 24-hour person because of our workload upstairs. I feel that we definitely could use even a full-time position, but because I felt that the county, that would not be fair to the county, I asked for an additional day. I have, before Janaea was hired, I had a 20-hour a week position, and then we negotiated down to the 16 hours so that we could get somebody in for the sanitarian to work with her. So, that is my request, I also feel that I need at least 4 to 6 weeks of full training with my person. Poor Janaea, she was hired and, she did not get the training that she so deserved. And in a sense, she does a terrific job, but, she just did not get that training. And so I have all this written out, but I just want to hear from you guys before I proceed.
And if I could just bark in here a little bit. Val asked me to come just to kind of give my point of view from the standpoint of whoever you're going to hire in to this position. And I don't think I've ever even really got an opportunity to talk to you guys about my position upstairs, just because every time I'm downstairs I'm busting at the seams with doing that type of work. But I will tell you, coming into this, when I was hired 3 years ago, it was hard. I've never been hired on, and I've had a lot of jobs, and I've never been hired on in a capacity where I kind of felt defeated before I even started, to be honest. This is how this is set up. I had, and I still have wonderful employers that you all have just been terrific with me and worked with me, and Val's been very compassionate and empathetic with where I was coming in from the standpoint that I was. With district court, there's a lot of law that you have to know, and a lot of technical systems that we have to do when we file, and the customers we work with and the clients we work with. But the needs that they have right now is Mondays and Fridays. So when I came into this department, I didn't get the training. I didn't get 4 to 6 weeks consecutively. And so I was at the first of the week and at the end of the week. And then I was learning another department between those 2 days. So to say that I was frustrated was, I mean, that's a minimal word for what I was trying to take in. At least with the sanitarians department, it was 2 consecutive days, which is not a lot, but it was 2 consecutive days. So when I was learning things, I could come back the next day, and that was repetition for me. With district court, it wasn't. It was the beginning and the end. So I took probably, I'm going to say, and maybe even longer, a good 2 years. And I've been here 3, but a good 2 years to where I felt, okay, I'm getting this, I'm learning, I know what I need to know, I feel effective. And I think with anybody working for the county or working for our community, you want to feel effective. And I've shared that with you guys. I just want to do my best. I want to feel effective, that I'm assisting people. That's the time frame that it took me. And I will tell you, probably 90% when I walk away on Monday evenings at 5 o'clock, I'm not back in the office till Friday. When I walk away, I leave work for Val and Audrey. There's not a time where I can get all of it completed. I leave work for them. Now on Friday nights, I get to come back Monday morning and I get to get that done. There's a weekend there, but Monday nights, I'm always leaving work for them. And just like I tell you with the sanitarians, district court, unfortunately, it's bursting at the seams too. I mean, we have more, and you guys have heard this, more crimes are being committed, there's more civils. I mean, our workload is gigantic. So I'm just telling you from my viewpoint that there's definitely a need, a very monumental need for Val to have a person up there at least for one more day. And I think it's crucial that whoever you bring in, they do get that 4 to 6 weeks of just consecutively working and training and being used up there. That's just from my standpoint. I felt like I failed many different times, and I know because I wasn't prepped. I just wasn't prepped. I didn't get that opportunity to be prepped. And it wasn't nobody's fault. That's the way it was structured out. So that just gives you some insight on where I'm, for whoever's stepping in, I want them to, enjoy it, and I do enjoy it. And like I said, I love working with everybody I work with, and I've had people that have been above and beyond to help me out, and I appreciate that. And I'm sad to leave that. I don't want to get emotional, but whoever comes in to replace that, I just want them to get all the knowledge that they need, and that they can come in and feel confident that they're doing their job correctly. So that's just my
Yeah,
Hilly.
From the sanitarian standpoint, how long did it take you to get up to speed there?
I mean, it took a while. Not as long as it took for Val. I would say probably a good 8 months to a year is when I started feeling comfortable. And once again, I mean, Julie was great too with me on that. But it was, I had those 2 days where they were consecutive, and I know that made a big difference. And it's completely different work down there than what we deal with upstairs. So, I don't like to compare the two, but you're talking about administrative work downstairs, which you can easily, you can grasp pretty quickly. You're talking about clerk work upstairs, which is a whole new ballgame. There's a lot of technical things you have to learn and memorize.
So let me ask you this.
Mhm.
I never thought about the consecutive days, but what you're describing, which I'd known 3 years ago,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So what if we were to look at 50-50 instead of, you've kind of just had the 2. You had a couple hours here and there for other stuff, but really it's just been the 2.
Mm-hmm.
But finance assistant, part-time, and then district court assistant, part-time, split down the middle. Without adding that third element, do you think that would be doable? And then to make the days consistent, so like Monday through Wednesday lunch through Friday. Would that be something that you think would help that learning curve for somebody?
Well, I definitely think that that's a, that's obviously a Val question of where she needs that person and what days she needs that person. I know.
But for
But I'm
your
just-
learning curve is what I'm
No,
wondering.
yes, absolutely. But see, I didn't get the training. So even with 6 weeks of consecutive training, that would help tremendously. And then
Okay,
it's because there's 2 separate points here. You have training and then you have workload. So the extra day that she's asking for is just for the workload. I mean, that's why I said I'm constantly leaving work for them to come into on Tuesday morning. And I feel horrible about that, but there's nothing I can physically do other than what I'm doing. So there's kind of 2 components, there's the workload that we have and then the training that this upcoming employee needs. And that, I know just from my standpoint, it would have helped a lot just to have that 4 to 6 weeks to start off, bam, right out the door, get my footing, know what it's about, and then the workload for the extra day, that's a different topic.
So is that training in-house?
Yes, yes, we do our training. Now, Lori, you just said the 50-50 training thing.
no split.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I meant. Split. I would also be willing to, if we could split like the days, like in the morning they could work in the accounting department, and in the afternoon they could work in the clerk of court's office, because
Oh.
that's where our mail comes. That's when we're the busiest, is after our mail. I mean, we're busy all the time, but our greatest increase comes with our mail, because all of the new filings and stuff, and it's easier to train somebody after you get your mail, because then you can go through. But you need to come. It's hard to explain, but you need to come every day, because one day you have your mail, and then if you don't get through you get the mail all stuff, but then you have to index it all. And then you have to make sure that whatever's in the filing has to go out to the appropriate people. And, I have a list of stuff that we are, and I know this doesn't cover everything, but what we are responsible for, and I know everybody is asking for more help, and so I'm trying to limit it but it's frustrating. It's very frustrating when other departments are getting extra help or new help, and I can't even get an extra day. And it's very frustrating.
I hear that, but I have to tell you that most of the other departments have cut staff. The only change is the solid waste department, and they had a whole revamp of their entire processes and department. But finance used to be 3, they're now 2. So it's not everybody else getting more. Everybody needs more, and some are getting less.
Yeah.
So I just want you to know that you haven't been singled out in any way. And what we're just trying to do is use the limited resources we have as wisely as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just wondering, can the hours be a little more flexible rather than saying, 24, 16 or whatever? I guess what I'm thinking in my mind is, say I like Val's idea where they work maybe in the morning in finance. And maybe think they got a light load in finance that morning. She can get everything she needs done in 2 hours. She could spend that extra time up in the clerk's office. You know what I'm saying?
I
You're still
do,
limited to the same number of hours, but it's a little more flexible within the 2 departments.
I think in order to say, to one department, are you okay having them just 2 to 4 hours a day? We need to have them here, and of course Debbie is
Right,
gone, and it's not
right.
something she could have helped. I think definitely flexibility is something we already do very, very well. So can we continue to be flexible? Yeah, heck yeah,
Yeah.
that's easy. But if we're going to be bringing on an employee to go through training of learning multiple departments, they have to have some kind of sense of a consistency
Mhm.
for that. Maybe Mondays and Fridays didn't work, but at least a person knows coming in the door what their expectations are. Okay, Mondays and Fridays are gonna be in this office. So I think your question is right on, but finance has some really serious needs right
No,
now.
they do.
And that is something we would have to look at and talk about. One of the issues that they have is they're responsible for everybody's mail. And that's one of the things they wanna have this person do is the mail, because it cuts into Michelle getting claims done. Granted, what happened to them the last month was out of their control as well. We had an issue with the checks. But it does kind of cut the day when they have to drop everything to take care of the mail, because every other department needs their mail as soon as possible so that they can start their processes. So would there be a way to ensure this person takes care of the mail in the finance office and then goes upstairs to your office with that mail? Yeah, I think some kind of flexibility there, absolutely. If things are slow in the finance office, which is not often, especially in the, summer of budget season, or audit season, which comes immediately after, but if there are quiet times, yeah, they can certainly, you and Debbie would work that out, and they'd go upstairs. Conversely, if things slow down in your department, or somebody is, I don't know, so things slow down, you send them downstairs for a crunch period for finance. I would absolutely hope you guys would work together like that, and I have no reason to doubt that you ever would. You already have a history of working together, so flexibility, yeah, that's easy. But for figuring out how to advertise this position and structure it, we have to have some parameters that we set.
Right.
Never thought about splitting a day, but yeah, I think, that might be something that would work really, really well, and then you have the day-to-day consistency. And that is your busy time. Finance probably can work towards pushing stuff to the morning for this person. So yeah. And maybe we look at that person who needs to do just our filing coming out of the sanitarian planning assistant position, 4 hours a week. So it doesn't have to come out of this position. So I think we also can be flexible.
I'm thinking the same thing.
God, that's
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing with your 4 to 6 weeks training, will be at the end of budget season. By the time we get somebody hired, that might be a really good time to just throw that person into your office for those, a month of full-time work, and then split it after that, which is the time that reporting starts. So that might work really well.
And I greatly appreciate that. I mean, I'm willing to work, Laura, I've always tried to look out for the best of the county.
I know that.
But I would appreciate that very much. The only other thing and I can talk to Debbie, is when Audrey and I have convention, that person would work for a full week, and then maybe we could switch then that person would work a full week down in their office to make up for the time that they were upstairs. But we can always look for work that out. So
Yeah, I have no
anyway.
doubt on that.
So, I just was wondering also if we could offer this in-house before we put it out into the public. I have heard of interest through other departments that would be interested in this position.
Yeah, we try and do that always.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I would just requesting that, so.
And I think for morale, anytime you can promote from within, I think you've done a tremendous service
Oh, yeah.
to letting people know there's room for advancement here.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
do a great job. We're gonna work with you, so yeah, I think it's a
Okay.
good thing to do.
Okay, so if I get this straight, we'll try to do the split.
Does that work for you guys, this new idea?
So if we do that split instead of getting 24 hours, we'll end up getting 20 hours. But is it more beneficial for you to have that person 5 days in a row or 4 days in a row than it is to have them split? I mean, would you rather have her all afternoons, or?
Yes, all
So
afternoons.
you don't need them for a full day,
No.
either day of the week?
It If we can do the afternoons are, like I said, are usually our busiest because that's after our mail. So,
When
and
does the mail come in downstairs?
usually about 10 or 11, depending on.
Between there and 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
depending on the day.
Yeah, well, you know, if it doesn't come down in by noon, that person could go down. I'm flexible. They can go down, sort the mail, bring ours up. It's all good.
And that's where the flexibility
Yeah,
comes in
yeah.
again.
hmm
Yeah.
Depends on if it's a 3-day weekend or
And I
not.
think another thing there is that if you're gonna take her for 4 to 6 weeks for training, then we need to send, Debbie and Michelle need to catch up on training too. So there may be some times that one of them is gonna be somewhere at some training because they don't get near enough supplemental training that they need.
Right.
So that you'd have to work something out there also.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I'm pretty easy to work with.
Janaea, do you see this as something that could work for somebody? Do you see any
Abs-
roadblocks or
No,
something we can
absolutely.
drive into that
I
we
think that
shouldn't?
would be a great,
Okay.
yeah, I'd apply.
Would you like to?
Would you like to apply?
No, I think that you're setting whoever that is up for success.
Okay,
I really do.
yeah, I feel badly, we didn't know enough to know what wasn't working.
Well,
and
sure.
We do
Yeah.
now.
No, yeah, no
But-
one does.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a great experience for me too though. And it made me be on my A game and learn, and that's good. And flexibility, and that's so it was good for me too. Yeah, it was good for me too. I think this structure that you guys are talking about will be excellent. I think
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Yeah, it's something I never even thought about. I'm glad you brought it up, Val. It sounds like it's more, I don't know, steered to success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, good plan, thank you.
Anything else?
Not for me. Mm-mm.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
I wanna just, this is not a wrench, but I'm gonna just throw it out there. Mary on Wednesday will tell us that she wants a full-time assistant. I don't think we can afford it. I don't know where that would come from. I would like to start part-time, see how it works, and move up from there. We talked about, someone she has on staff right now who's part-time, moving that person up to full-time. And that those additional hours would be assistant, and they would be paid by road and weed and mosquito, as solid waste is already paying the base.
So my question there is though, is what kind of work she really gonna be doing for, weed and mosquito? We already have a manager in that position.
Right, minutes for the weed board meetings, that would be one. Two would be answering the phones, coordination, claims, that kind of thing. Mary should be signing all the claims and reviewing all the claims, but she should not be putting them all together. That is way below her pay grade. That would be a great job for an assistant. She spends hours putting claims together for all 4 departments. So, that'd be something for Mary to determine, how many hours. But the wrench I was going to mention, and I'm not sure this would even work, but the sanitary and planning assistant, could those 8 hours instead go to administration for public works? Maybe it's not nearly as good a fit as somebody already in that department, but I just thought I'd throw it out for discussion and thought. We do need just, a minimum of 4 hours a week to get our filing under control. Just the 3 of us aren't gonna do it. One, we're too busy.
Yeah, we don't have time.
So we would be wise to commit to these plans and move forward with advertising. Unless you guys wanna discuss it some more, wait till after we talk with Mary, although
Yeah.
Mary is kind of a different, not connected with either of these plans. Other than,
But would we take that person for sanitation planning, would become sanitation planning public works?
Possibly,
You know,
it might not be as good
Yeah, I
a
don't think
fit,
it's a great fit. I mean, you get people wearing too many hats, and
yeah.
I just, you know, I put myself, if I was in that position, I'm thinking, man, I don't know.
Maybe what we talked about this morning,
I
to stick
think
with it.
just stick with what we have going this
Yeah.
morning.
And we don't know how many hours we're gonna need for planning.
Right.
If Nicole does go back to 32, then that administrative assistant could be moved up to 20,
Mhm.
at a lower pay,
Sure.
and be that presence. So that could easily be a full-time position as well, already.
Yeah, and I think, you know, something that we talked about too is if we have the right person there on the sanitation end, that could limit the amount of time that Sean has to spend down here as well,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. That could be a great opportunity for us, and then again, to perhaps promote from within, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we good then to advertise for a full-time position, 40 hours a week, split 50-50 between finance and district court? And advertise for a full-time administrative assistant position to be split between sanitation and planning, 50% at sanitation, and, anywhere from 32 to, or 20,
Is that
whatever
gonna be,
number
I
would
didn't
be.
think that that position, the sanitation and planning is gonna be full-time though, it was only gonna be 32-hour position.
Well, that's what we talked about, is 32 or
Mhm.
full-time.
Yeah.
So if Nicole goes back to 32 hours,
Mhm.
then that position could easily be 40 hours a week between the
Yeah.
two. If she remains at 40, that position could be closer to 32
Mhm.
per week, plus 4 for, filing for us. But we were also gonna kind of see what that looked like and if that was working. So we could advertise that as, 36 to 40 hours per week? What do you think?
We figured sanitation planning take up 32, right?
Correct,
But then,
minimum.
but then if Nicole cuts hers back to 32, then that girl, that person would go to 40.
More than likely, yeah. Very possibly. And by then, perhaps all our filing would be done, and our needs would be
Mhm.
diminished.
So what's, and I know Debbie's said, and I can't remember, when you go from a part-time to a full-time employee, figuring in all the benefits and everything, what's that impact?
30.
30,000?
No, the impact is, wrap rate is what it's called, and it's 17% if you're part-time without benefits, 33% if you have benefits, and that's kind of just a rule of thumb. So the benefits start at 30 hours per week, and that's per the ACA
Okay,
and the union.
okay.
That's one of the reasons that Mary was instructed were for her part-timers to keep them between 25 and 28 hours per week.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this one that she has is at 28, they would move to 40, those 12 hours become administrative assistant work.
Mhm.
And that's at the lowest pay.
So when we advertise that, do we put in there that they're splitting half between district court and half between financial office?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we'd have a job description for each of those.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'd probably describe that it would be mornings in the finance office, afternoons in district court.
So can Mary's current budget, support this person?
It depends on how she structures it. Maybe we should just table that entirely until Wednesday. We need to review that budget.
Right.
And, the question is, yeah, your question, can her budget afford it? Well, she does have 4 budgets.
Right.
But the other thing is should she be doing administrative work herself at her pay grade? I would say no. She's got a whole lot more of the supervisory work that she should be doing, not administrative work. How can we best use the people's money by paying people according to the jobs that they're doing? So that
Yeah.
would be one side of that coin. And, you know, in the past, we had 3 such positions, now we have 1, it was a savings to the public. But how do we make sure that the administrative work that used to be done by supervisors is done?
Right.
So, do you wanna think on the sanitarian planning some more and just advertise the one? What do you guys think? And,
Well, I think the district court and the finance one we should do. We need to get somebody in for the sanitarian. I mean, Janae's gonna be gone in July, right?
Another month, right?
I thought it was August, maybe it's July,
Yeah, in July, I thought.
end of July, yeah, that doesn't give us a lot of time.
Right.
And if we don't have somebody there, we're gonna be paying Sean
Right.
more to
Well,
come in and do administrative work.
Right.
So we don't have the luxury of a lot of time.
Mhm. I think that position, I'd like to see that position start out as a part-time position.
Part-time, how many hours?
12:32,
Good.
and then,
What about the commission filing? Who's gonna do it? Because that is an issue.
mhm,
That we have a stack that's 2 feet high in our office
yeah,
is not. I'm not gonna do the filing. I'm already doing 40 hours a week or more. If you guys wanna take over the filing, that's fine with me. If you have another idea on how we can address this, I'm open.
Well, it doesn't really matter if we start this position out at 32 or 36, we're gonna pay benefits on it anyway.
yeah.
So you might as well just start out at 36 and have them do 4 hours flat.
Yeah,
And then if Nicole decides she wants to go back to 32, we could bump this person up to 40 and that person, they can have 4 more hours in plant,
Right.
Yeah.
And then Nicole will go back to 32, you said,
32 or 36.
or 36, whatever she.
Depending on what the workload is, I guess.
All right,
So that would be cheaper to have this person there for 4 hours and it would have Nicole in there for 8.
mhm,
We'd have savings there, plus we'd also have Sean covered in case something else comes up where he needs some more money and some more time in sanitation, we could still cover that, instead of having Sean come in.
mhm. Yeah, and I like his plan about having the sanitarian technician, you know,
Yeah,
that that's the right person there that can start assuming
most of those
those
duties,
duties, and
yeah.
if that could help out. All right, I'm okay with that.
let's do between 32 and 36, depending on,
Because typically in the winter sanitation is gonna slow down and that would be where we could keep that admin person and maybe have Sean just go, does he come in 2 days a week now?
it's coming 2 to 3, yeah.
Till come winter, he would come in 1.5 to 2 days and then that administrative assistant could pick up some of that slack and that would be a savings there.
Why don't we do it at 32 to start? with potential to full-time.
Yeah,
And that way we can possibly recruit a little bit more widely. Somebody who is, you know, perhaps a student might want to apply, and then we can increase it as they become proficient. Or if GPS grows and, there's an opportunity to use that with roads and mosquitoes and, it just gives us more wiggle room. What do you think?
yeah,
Okay, and then as far as our filing goes, maybe we just shave or add those hours. If it's 32 to start. Okay,
Yeah, I think if they just spent a couple hours a day, they can probably catch up on that filing fairly quickly.
and it's not something anybody wants to spend more than a few hours on. I mean, it is,
Yeah,
and right now the pile is intimidating, and that's why every person we've hired to do it hasn't gotten it done. You look at that and it takes all your energy out of your sales.
okay,
Okay,
okay with that.
all right.
okay. Yes, Jim?
Just a quick question, is the option on the sanitation department to go back to hire a full-time sanitarian off the table, or, because I guess that's part of that financial side of that?
Still in discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to the submittal of a balanced sheriff's office budget.
Can we,
Where do we wanna do some of these?
well, I'm thinking it's important for us to kind of know, we can do it in either direction, but I think we're gonna have to know where we're at, specifically with PILT. And perhaps, Brandon, I see you're here, perhaps we have a budget submittal that doesn't include PILT, but before we can allocate PILT, we need to have a full picture. So either one is fine, Mike, if you want to hear from Brandon and Wynn since they're here first, that's fine. We do need to get that one submitted so that we can get the preliminary budget built, so that we can adopt that.
Well, let's go with theirs and then see where they're at, and then we
That
can
works.
go from there.
More the pill issue, but if you got the email from Bill Rocky, that was really about everything, so.
Well, I guess we don't have a balanced budget anyways. Well, I just got the numbers from Debbie, this morning, which I put them into my budget, our budget, and, as we were gone last week to the sheriff's conference, and she had made the adjustments for the COLA, and it went up even more than what I had projected. So, and that's with, talking with Debbie, she said take the vehicles out, put those in the CIP, so I'm not sure how those are actually gonna be funded. So that's taking the vehicles out, upping our jail revenue and adding in the 3.9%, and we're still, $69,000 needed, so I guess I would like to listen to any ideas or what you guys have to say about that, and maybe go from there, give me something to go off of here. So,
Can I ask you an easy question to
Yep.
start? Did you get the search and rescue budget issue corrected?
I haven't, that is not,
Okay.
no, I
You know what I'm
haven't.
talking about?
I did, she
Okay.
did discuss that with me. I think that they are gonna be coming forward, pretty much with the same budget as last year, outside of, they do have a request and a need for that, the tracks and the cab for that, side by side. And that'd be a $10,000 request, and I think it's something that's very reasonable for them. so when there is those weather events, they're not out there on the snowmobiles getting frostbite, saving people's lives, that we protect our volunteers, so. I think that's about the only thing they'll be coming back with, so.
Will they, put in maybe a trust board grant for that?
I don't know, you'd have to talk to the sheriff, how that would go for recreation, so.
Well, I don't know if it's, well, if we're going off the state, that's kind of a tall one. I'm not sure how sort of trust board defines their recreation. Because like the state of Montana for reimbursement only recognizes fishing, hunting, and trapping as recreation. So I don't know if like snowmobiling or, you know, we went out and chased people on snowmobiles because they got themselves stuck or lost or whatever else. So I don't know, I guess that'd be a conversation with them. I know that the big conversation point with trust board lately has been trying to replace a jet boat. And that's $105,000 to $120,000 deal. So that's a pretty big thing. But, you know, we've had this discussion for several years about that big jet boat. It's just, I think it's 36, 37 years old now. And trying to find parts and pieces for it's very difficult. So, but it's obviously a topic of conversation as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, it seems like every time we turn around, there's more and more and less. So, I'm not really quite sure what we're gonna do. But,
You're talking about the big lake boat.
you know, and I mean, it's,
Based on the fact that the trust board has granted to search and rescue before, I think it's a pretty easy assumption they would again. We don't define, Broadwater County, which is the trust board, doesn't define recreation as narrowly as you just did. So before asking for PILT, I would say, please put in a grant request with the trust board. We spent a lot of hours on that, the last couple of meetings. So that would be my request for search and rescue. We just can't spend the same dollar twice, and
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
budget that was turned into us.
yep. No, I think there was just I think we both were looking at a couple different things there and not catching the.
Well, we didn't either. I mean, it was finance that did, thank goodness, but all I'm saying is, let's just correct that and get it turned in so that we can get a preliminary budget off.
So, I guess the first budget that you even have in front of you, it's not worth the paper it's written on, because the numbers changed. And
Did you bring us an updated one?
I did, I just wanted to hear some ideas and some questions or anything about that one before we submitted.
Do you have an extra? I didn't get one.
I haven't given it out yet.
Oh,
so.
okay. I'm seeing these guys looking and
No, it's
thinking,
our-
I'm trying to engage
Okay.
in just some questions about that one before I hand this one out, and then we can move on, and this one has the updated, stuff, but, or any ideas or where you guys picture your public safety in Broadwater County and see what,
have you met with the school board?
I talked to the superintendent, they are absolutely not interested in the 2 mills because they don't want to mill anything extra if they're looking forward to going forward with the new school thing that they're talking about. So they are not gonna mill those 2 mills. And they also feel that if they did mill the 2 mills, they understand that we cannot, outside of us hiring a completely new deputy to sit in that school all day, which we cannot do, they feel that they can use that money for security, be a better investment, whether it be metal detectors or
Something
better
else.
security footage or things like that, some other different measures, door locks, things like that. So that is absolutely out the door.
So did you say you were gonna pull the 2 cars out of there?
We pulled the 2 cars out of this budget, so the 84 is out. The 3.9% and the 3.9% and
CBA agreement.
CBA agreement is in, and I'm negative, and I've upped our revenue, and that puts me in negative 69, or in the red, I guess you'd say, negative 69,000.
We kinda had a
Here's this.
discussion on the, I'll pass them around, Ben, if you want, I've got it.
Thank you.
Is it still included in here, the, out of the, Mason Moore account
That's just rolled over.
to Corey to help with the
Oh.
the Barris litigation? Was that still included in here?
That's
no,
because that's already been taken out.
Well, no, and then but there is money being rolled over from this year that's not being spent, and it's somewhere to 75, 80,000, so you'll see I even up that to the, to the 80. Well, that's our expenses, I guess you need our revenues to go with it. Sorry.
There you go, Daryl. That's the revenue side.
So when I put in on the mills, if our mill value goes up to 16.7, then it brings us down to about $30,000, $32,000, still in the red. And that's without the vehicles in there. I don't understand the CIP thing or what the thought process there. I haven't got to sit down with Debbie and talk at length with it, about it. But
What did you, how much did you up your prisoners by? Is that attainable?
we upped it to the exact same number that we did this year, to the 35, with the increase to the jail rate bed. Now on the revenue, I couldn't add it in because I'm not good enough at Excel to change the rate on there for a separate line up for Department of Correction inmates. But Department of Corrections sent us back a form that we have to figure out. We have to go through and do the formula before you can just raise their rates. So we're doing that. Well, my first rough draft form went through that, and we're way above the $69 a day to cost to do business there. So my thought process is, you want to send this to me, we're going to do the $69 a day for Department of Corrections. Everybody else will stay at the $67.95. So with that being said, that only adds $7,000, almost $8,000, and that's where you'll go down through the revenue and you'll see detention revenue other 7,500. So I just quickly added that in there so you can see a reflection on that.
Now, the only thing, so when we talk about, we know that it's been advertised and publicized, is that Lewis and Clark County is gonna open in August of 2020. So we know we got that fiscal year part. The only thing that we're trying to do, we're trying to come to an agreement and work through some things to maybe take on some of Sweetgrass County. Not Sweetgrass, but Stillwater. So there's a couple that we've kind of gone out and we're able to pilfer in, I guess, the best way to describe it. Obviously Carbon County, Sweetgrass County, if we can get Stillwater. You know, we're trying to find those ones that are dedicating, they're dedicating a certain allotted amount of money to another jurisdiction to pay for those beds, where we're saying, look, we'll give you this rate. We'll give, you know, just call us if you have 5, 10, whatever, we'll make an arrangement with you. So we're trying to be not so contractual, I guess, as what a lot of the other bigger jurisdictions are, and try to save people some money to kind of throw that carrot out there. I don't know. Yeah, you know, we spent a whole week at the Sheriff's Association, and with the exception of when Kurt Almy and the folks from COPS and the guy from USDA that were there talking about their grants and everything, that's the only time I saw Department of Corrections folks. They're usually there. We never had one state person. We didn't have Highway Patrol, we didn't have DOC of the Academy, we didn't have any of them at our meeting, which was odd. So obviously there's a source of contention out there somewhere. So I don't know what to get a good feeling on, if that's gonna be something that we're gonna make or not. I mean, it's, And to be honest with you, I just found out it's pretty disheartening. You know, I can sit here and look at this budget and, you know, hope and pray, but, I was just told that I got 4 dispatchers that are, or 3 dispatchers that are actively looking for a new job. And, that changes things, quite drastically. So, obviously I lose Seth August 16th. If you don't know, Brandon's been, he's actively looking for a new position as well. So, this might be all fine and dandy, but in 4 months I could be, looking at an option of closing the dispatch center and trying to contract somebody else because I won't have the staff to do it. And there's lots of plethora of issues there, so I can't really put my finger on it. I just was told about it now before I came down, so, you know, everything we're dealing with right now is a guessing game, so. That's why we're kinda open to see what you guys have to say.
Well, I like, you know, you got it down to 69 or 39, but I don't, you know, you gotta have vehicles, I mean, you can't guys go expect to patrol the highway in a bicycle, it's not gonna work.
There's one I wanted to. There's one I told him if he crashed another car, he was gonna be riding a bicycle, but. No. You know, and that's the thing, and that's what, you know, Brandon's done a very good and diligent job of trying to make sure that everything is everything that we need from that risk and liability, and that's the other caveat to this, is everything that we do in a patrol car or whatever has that risk and liability component to it. And, you know, we've got, I don't know if they told you I was gone, but, you know, here just a week or 2 ago, we had another lawsuit, and it's like, for little Pete, you know, and it's things, if we don't have the documentation, we don't have that stuff to back that up, we're sitting there, and so, you know, do you skimp on not putting a radar, do you not put in a camera system, do you not give them a body cam, do you not, you know, all that wonderful hoopla that goes with it, there's just, everything around it now, it's just got litigation assigned to it, so, you know, Brandon's done a really good job trying to fine tune that, and I think that, in my personal opinion, this is just my personal opinion, is I think that Brandon has slimmed it up and trimmed it up so much that, we're at a point that if, you know, if a number's not met, it breaks. It's not, there's no give and take. I mean, it's just where we're at. I mean, we're probably below core strength of what's there. We're making it work, but I don't foresee it being sustainable if we have something out of the norm, such as a large wildfire or some other disaster. I mean, we would be up a creek without a paddle, so.
So, question for you, the preliminary budget proposal for the sheriff's salary. There is an increase of $147,256 from what was budgeted last year.
Yep.
Because
Why?
Tammy, she doesn't do any dispatch, so all that comes out of the sheriff now.
But that would be status quo from last year, right? That
No.
was
It's the
last
same
year.
amount of
It's the same,
employees, we
yeah.
just moved them out of detention and dispatch. We moved the captain out of there, cause I
Okay.
wanted to see what that cost is inside the jail. And Seth's a sworn deputy, so it's just moving those up into the sheriff's salary versus, yeah, so you'll see a decrease in dispatch and detention.
Detention came down because
Came
that
down.
was, yeah, and because of, you know, we're trying to look at
Okay,
what's the core cost for that detention
Okay,
center.
so-
yeah, gotcha.
And so when you're trying to infiltrate money to try to balance that out, all we did was just shift the burden and the cost. And so, you know, when you look at how much is water and how much is the salaries, and then we had half a detective coming out of there, we had Tammy coming out of there, we had Seth coming out of there. In reality, if Joe wasn't there, Seth would still be there. And so it was just cleaning it up a little bit, but that was a big increase on it.
And that, my first one that I did was the guessing one, and then Debbie went through and redid them the way that we asked and got all the numbers the right way, so. That's why.
So the subtotal for all personnel is still showing quite an increase. That should be everything together, right? So 721, 756 was budgeted for last year, the year that we're just now ending.
Where you
And
at?
the last page of your expenditures,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows a new total of 921, so a $200,000 increase. Why is that?
I couldn't tell you, I just entered Debbie's numbers, so I don't know why.
So where,
If you look on the very last page, under subtotal
Oh,
of
yeah.
all personnel, instead of searching through, I just went down to this. I don't know this spreadsheet very well.
Yeah,
So, all, law enforcement personnel total. Oh, no, and then it has the other person, like I said, I don't know the spreadsheet. So, there's decreases, but they don't, if you look at law enforcement personnel, are we all on the same
Yeah, yeah.
box?
Mhm.
Okay, so there's a $200,000 increase in that first box. And then you go to detention center personnel, and there's a $40,000 decrease. Coroner personnel, $1,000 increase. No difference until dispatch personnel, and we've got a $30,000 increase.
That's interesting.
and that's everything, so when I re-entered her numbers, I'm assuming something must have happened with sheriff's retirement. FICA and work comp increased by $10,000 each, so there's 20,000. Sheriff's retirement, and these are her numbers, so something, I noticed huge increases in those items. And so unless, if she made a mistake, or there's just big increases in that, that's the only thing I can come up with.
Didn't our worker comp rates go down last year though?
It looked like to me that detention almost went down, but everybody, dispatch and,
I mean, it's a
deputies seemed like,
$12,000 increase on both workers' comp and FICA. And that's huge money.
that's what I felt when I was going through her numbers and entering them, so.
It's not gonna be
I can't imagine being that, I mean, that's.
right. 200,000 divided by this year's total, you're looking at an increase of 28%.
Wow.
And that's just that one line item. There's no way that's FICA and work comp and unemployment.
Well,
So-
it's even a huge, in sheriff's salary, that's $147,000.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing in there that equates to $147,000. I mean, most of the staff most patrol divisions 3 years or less, so, I mean, that's not that big a difference. And even at 3.9%, you're still only looking at a few, but there's gotta be,
Here's your base plus the longevity, plus
well, but,
the CBA.
well, that shouldn't go under hours though.
Yeah, that does. That goes in salary.
That should be a stipend.
It is, but it goes in salary. And then you have a difference in the wages.
No, thank you, Ann. Are you guys okay if we call Ann back when we have a decision or vote?
Yeah.